Yes, the Auburn Tigers just keep winning. They take down UNC 85-72. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joined by the one and only Montgomery radio legend, the Darrell Dapprich. And Auburn just continues to build their impressive resume, Darrell Dapprich.
They really do. I mean, again, this is what you consider a college basketball blue blood. North Carolina is just that. They're the number 12th ranked team in the country. They don't go away. No. They come back, and I mean, they came back huge against Dayton. They almost came back against Kansas. But yet Auburn was really able to keep them at bay. I think even after the second half, I mean, North Carolina had a hard time getting it into single digits. I don't know if they ever got it under 10 in the second half. Auburn did a good job of just not letting it get that close, extended the lead all the way to 19.
Yep.
And I think kind of took their soul a little bit, took their enthusiasm or their hopes and dreams to come back. The start of the game and the start of the second half won this basketball game for Auburn. Those were two crucial segments, two crucial stretches, and that's where the game was won. And in the middle sections, they did a good job of holding off North Carolina because they've got a run in them, especially with those guards.
Right. And North Carolina was trying to do what they did last night against Dayton. In fact, I went to bed last night. Dayton was up by like 15 or something in the second half, and I'm like, all right, Auburn's playing Dayton tomorrow. And I woke up and like, oh, North Carolina. Okay, great. And that's kind of what made this interesting is the fact of like, can North Carolina do it again? And it looked like they did the first half of it. They just didn't close. And there was a possession where it was a call that ended up being an Auburn turnover. They reviewed it, and North Carolina had the ball down 11 in the second half. And it's like, if they score here, it's like single digits. It gets a little concerning. Auburn held their own, and it was pretty much all Auburn after that point. But there were definitely runs where North Carolina made it interesting. But to me, like Johni Broome's first half was just one of the most dominant things you can ask for in college basketball. A double-double in the first half, and he did it. It still just looks so effortless, the way he plays basketball and how dominant he is around the rim.
18 points in the first half. So you look at that and you go, wow, is this guy projected to get 30 for the night? He cooled down in the second half, which, by the way, is a good thing. It's a good thing that a supporting cast emerged in the second half and picked up that slack. A Miles Kelly, a Pettiford, a Chaney Johnson. That's what you want because championship caliber basketball teams, it's not about one person. So he carried Auburn in the first half, and the second half, other people stepped up. I think when I think of a visual, if I was to paint a picture of this basketball game, what comes to mind to me and the phrase is that Auburn just always seemed to keep them at arm's length.
Yeah.
They'd get close, they'd get into but it was just, I'm not going to get it into single digits. Now in the first half, they cut it, obviously to 3 or 4. I think that nice little run at the end of the first half, they talk about the last 2 or 3 minutes of a half and the first 2 or 3 minutes are crucial. I also think the first 3 or 4 minutes of a game are crucial. Auburn checked the box on all 3 of those criteria. And then they just did what they had to do. They answered. But look, me and you had talked about this before we hit record, and we're not big look at officiating, blame it on official guys. But the bottom line is this game's a 20-point blowout if it's not. And again, Auburn has had this deficiency for 2 or 3 years. We've been doing this together where it always seems like they're at the end, the negative end of the foul ledger. And we've talked about maybe that's just their style. That's the way they play. They're so aggressive defensively. Not in this game. I just, you hate to say that somebody that has a reputation like North Carolina does gets the benefit of the doubt on some calls.
Yeah.
But first of all, it took almost, I don't remember, was it 12 or 13 minutes before they even got called for a foul in the first half? That's ungodly. That's unheard of. You cannot play college basketball and go 14 minutes without committing a foul.
Well, especially with the flow of the game. I mean, this was a physical game. These teams were running into each other. Bodies were flying all over the place. And it's like, you're telling me Auburn's the only team fouling? I don't know. And as far as the free throw shooting goes, Auburn didn't shoot a ton of free throws because they used to just shoot nothing but threes. But the way they run their offense now through Johni, And, the way these wings want to attack the basket and, as many minutes as Dylan Cardwell gets to start the game, that they should be shooting more free throws.
Yeah.
I hate being that guy.
Believe,
I hate being the guy to point things at officiating, but these all of Maui that I've seen, I haven't watched every game, but I've watched half of them, all of Auburn's, and then, the one last night, and then UConn's losses, that's a different story. If you want to talk about that, we can. But it's just been bad. It's been bad. It's been uneven. It's been inconsistent. And I think that benefited North Carolina. I think this game was a lot more dominant than what the final score says.
Absolutely. If the foul differential at one point wasn't, I think besides that ludicrous 7-0 foul differential to start the game before North Carolina finally got called for a foul, various points throughout the game, it was 6-7 to the negative for Auburn. North Carolina committed 6 or 7 less fouls. And I don't believe, I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. I think that two things can be true at once. A, refs can suck, and some do. And B, I do believe sometimes, Zach, subconsciously, blue bloods and teams that have an historic, a storied tradition get benefits, get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? They're not going in there and trying to rig anything, but just subconsciously, I think they get a little bit more benefit of the doubt because of the tradition and the status that they've built. And I think that was evident tonight. I don't believe, refs trying to keep them in the game, that kind of stuff. But I do believe reputation matters. It matters with players, and it matters with programs. And so for Auburn to overcome that foul differential, and again, they must be the most efficient, elite defensive guarding team, North Carolina, to go 13 minutes without committing a foul. My gosh, they need to teach a class on how to defend that to happen.
Can we just pause for a second and just recognize what we're doing? We just boat raced North Carolina, whooped them by 13, and we're complaining about officiating.
Because it could have been 20. I mean, I just think that every time it got to that threshold, Zach, of 17, 18, 19, there would be something, a whistle, and you'd go, what?
Yeah, and it felt like momentum was going in Auburn's favor too, right? Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Now, I'm not saying that Auburn did not commit the fouls that were called on Auburn. I'm not saying there was – especially in the first half, a lot of those foul calls were legitimate fouls. I'm just saying, how is North Carolina not fouling? When Auburn's fouling and they're getting whistled for it, how is North Carolina getting away, 7-0? That's all I'm saying. Because Auburn does foul. They are so aggressive defensively.
Yeah,
they reach. That's part of their DNA. That's part of what they do. You don't want them playing any less aggressive. But I think you made a really, really good point about a difference between this team and teams past when you're running things through Johni Broome.
Yeah,
Denver Jones is another guy that gets to the line a lot that Auburn has been lacking in the guard position.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I didn't love Denver's game tonight because it was a similar line last night. I mean, shooting from the floor is wildly inefficient, is Denver Jones so far this year, or at least in Maui. 2 of 9 from the floor tonight, but he scores 10 points. So, okay, all right, because he got to he shot 6 free throws, and that gets you there. So he makes 4 of them. He makes two threes, and that's the math. So I think that's a great point. You also saw Miles Kelly, I feel like, slash and attack the basket a little bit more than he has. And I want to see more of that moving forward.
If he does that to go along with the 3-point shot that he's got in his tool belt, that kid's a 15 points per game scorer, which I think he is anyway. That translates.
Sure.
The other thing that our guards don't do, and I give them credit for it, is when they do draw contact, our guards seem to try to play through the contact. Other guards seem to flop. I'm just telling you, the guards last night flopped, and North Carolina's the head flying back and going to the ground flopping. Auburn's guards don't do that. They just play through contact. and still try to get the shot up. And it's just a different style. But a lot of guards get taught to do that, to fling their head back, and they get the benefit of the doubt when they do that. So I don't know. I'd like to see Denver, like you said, be a little bit more efficient from the field, but I can't complain when he's getting double digits. He's playing good defense, and he is money at the free throw line. And he's going to get to the line a lot. So I like that aspect of his game.
Yeah, I do too. All right, who is your player of the game? You can't say Johni Broome. Live chat, load us up. There's been an update. Darrell. And we're going to talk about that in just a second as well. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. As we do this show live, there's not a set line yet for Auburn and Memphis, but Auburn is still 11.5-point underdog in the Iron Bowl. If you feel confident about that one way or the other, head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. But there is a basketball line here that I think is interesting. Johni Broome, his odds right now to win the John Wooden Award for this year, plus 340. They think he's got a real shot at it, and based off of what's happened this week, it's hard to argue that.
Man, he is just. We talked about, okay, he's going to go out to this tournament and face some elite defenders at his position. If he has the kind of tournament where he makes the all-tournament team, or he's the tournament MVP, that will propel him into be the favorite. And right now, Zach,
he's the best player in college basketball.
Best player in college basketball, best player in this tournament, and just playing at an unbelievable level right now. Yeah.
So from a value standpoint, if you like futures, I think you sprint to that plus 340, because that is going to get it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Hey, at FanDuel, you can bet $5 and win $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Before we jump into player of the game stuff, and we got a lot of different answers, which seems to be a theme. Like if you take Johni Broome out, because I think we'd all say Johni Broome, but if you take that conversation out, it's like who is the second best player tonight? There's like 5 or 6 different names, which is the strength of this team. But the update, Auburn is #1 in kenpom yet again.
And you know why? You know why they are? How that happened? Ironically,
tell me.
Alabama beat Houston.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Pick your poison there, Auburn fans.
We've talked about this before. Auburn needs to focus on Auburn.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just think that's funny. I mean,
it is funny. Yeah.
So it just, the irony, but Auburn is such elite program right now, or basketball team for this year, that there is no reason to look anywhere else but inward and look at Auburn and focus on and worry about Auburn, because now you beat Houston, you beat Iowa State, who, man, Dayton gave them everything they wanted, but I think Dayton's a pretty good basketball team. I underrated them last night a little bit. I think they're really good, really well coached. And then you've beat North Carolina, who's a blue blood, who almost came back and beat Kansas, only had 1 loss, was a top 12 team, has some of one of the 3 best guard, not tandem, but the 3 guards in the backcourt. They play a 3-guard rotation in the country. Mm-hmm. And you did a good job of slowing those guards down, I think. I mean, they still got their points, but they didn't go off. You didn't allow them to beat you. And that's crucial with defense. That says a lot about Auburn's defense. So now they already had the best resume in college basketball going into tonight. You just knocked off number 12. Now you're #1 in the kenpom. You're going to play Memphis, who's a dangerous, scary basketball team, how athletic they are. They're feeling it right now. I don't know, though, to be honest with you, Zach. I think their draw, they beat UConn in the first round, but I don't think Michigan State is as good as either Iowa State or North Carolina, to be perfectly honest with you. I just don't. So I think their bracket has been a little easier. And then with UConn losing to Colorado, what is UConn, right?
Yeah, that opens up a ton of questions. No question about it.
I think that bracket, that side is the old SEC East, and Auburn's playing in the SEC West, right?
Yeah, sure.
And
Memphis is 27 in kenpom. This is still a good
They
basketball team, no question about it. They're probably asleep right now. I think that matters. So we'll see. That game's at 4 Central tomorrow, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, it was 5 Eastern, 4 Central. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, we're planning on being live after that. To me, it's Chaney Johnson. If you take Johni Broome out of the player of the game conversation, it's Chaney Johnson with what he did in the second half. I mean, he made the case he was the best player on Auburn's team in the second half. 9 points, 4 of 7 shooting, had 7 rebounds, 2 assists. He had a block. Played 19 minutes in the second half. Is that right?
How many did Chad Baker-Mazara have for the game?
Rebounds?
Points.
14 points, 7 rebounds, 1 steal in 28 minutes.
They just, I would say it's him.
One busted knee.
Yeah, I think it's him just because Auburn does look different when he's not on the floor. And so if I was to take him out of that equation, it'd be between Chaney and Miles Kelly. I think Miles Kelly had more points than Chaney. And here's the thing about the Chaney Johnson deal. He didn't get to play a lot down the stretch last night because of foul trouble. So he was fresh.
Mm-hmm.
He was fresh and it showed. And he also comes off the bench. So, man, was he really something that you could unwrap there and he'd be ready to go? And I guess the beauty of this, and it's 1:00 in the morning. And by the way, we've got I love the lunatics that are on this with us. And I mean,
there's almost 1,300 people in here.
It's just incredible. And we appreciate you guys jumping on.
Thank you all.
This is great. The Locked On Lunatics is what we'll call them. But so I think the fact that we can't really definitively say, and there's so many choices as who's the second player of the game is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's what you want with depth. And you could throw Pettiford into that mix too with some of the threes that he hit in the second half.
You're right.
He had some big answers. He was the guy that when North Carolina cut it to 10 or 11, boom, he'd hit a shot to get you back up 13 or 14. And you can't undervalue those shots and how important they are in the psyche and the flow of a basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument for so many guys, and that's what the live chat did. And that's a testament to how good this team is. It's so fun. Tahad not shooting a free throw. It's like I want to see him attack the basket more. In a similar way that we saw Denver and Miles
He likes
Kelly
the perimeter. He likes the perimeter.
Sure.
And he likes that mid-range jumper. Then when he steps right inside the lane, inside the free throw line. But I did see him attack it a couple times and go down. Looked like he drew contact. And I will just say this too. Side note, I have never watched a tournament where more spectators get hurt and get run over than this tournament. And I guess it's this proximity of how they have them on the floor.
I mean, everybody is just so close. I mean, even like the bench, like where the team's sit, it feels like they're just sitting on the court.
And Chad Baker-Mazara almost hurt his knee again because of the table being so close. He flies over the table. Somebody gets hit, but it's just funny how that is. But getting back to Pettiford, I'd like to see him. I think he does have a really nice off the glass where he throws it, the high arching shot. So he needs to do that more. But he had some big shots. I mean, you could pick 4. You can pick from 4 guys.
I think so. I think so too. So when you look at Memphis, I mean, you got to think it's a similar plan. I mean, they made the decision, and there was a big thing on Twitter last night about how Auburn had 4 assistant coaches watching the North Carolina Dayton game last night. It seemed like the plan was, okay, there is a mismatch with Johni Broome versus whoever is playing at the post for North Carolina. You got to think it's going to be a similar plan against Memphis. I'm guessing.
Yeah, Memphis creates a little bit of a different matchup problem for Auburn for a couple reasons. I think North Carolina was very guard heavy. I didn't really think their bigs played all that particularly well. I think Broome and Cardwell, some of the blocks, the erasers.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis can go inside out on you. They've got a quick athletic, they got good guards, but they also have some really athletic bigs. I
Sure.
don't think they're as deep as Auburn, and that is going to be very, very key tomorrow night, how Auburn can go very deep. And Auburn's, I think, a little bit more seasoned, more of a veteran team. So that'll make a difference. But Memphis is so athletic, Zach, and they're so long, and their bigs are athletic and can run the floor. Their guards, transition and getting back on defense tomorrow is going to be very important for Auburn.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, you talk about depth. We talked about this last year a ton during the SEC tournament run. Depth matters when you play your third game in 3 days.
It does. It's here's the thing, that the start that Auburn got surprised me so much, because it was on the back end of a back-to-back night that you had to expend a lot of energy to come back and win.
Yeah.
So the fact that they started that fast shocked me, because they're coming right back and playing the next night. And like North Carolina had to do last night, it really expend a lot of energy to come back from a 20-point deficit. Auburn didn't coast. Auburn didn't cruise. Auburn,
Right.
It takes a lot out of a basketball team to come back like that and play at that emotion. And by the way, Iowa State drains you with the way they play defense. They emotionally, physically take their toll on you, because you have to work so hard on every possession to get shots. That's the way Iowa State guards you. So it takes its toll. For Auburn to come out and start this game the way they did, having played a game like that, is just incredible to me. And then the same thing in the second half when they came out that way. So,
Yeah, I'm looking at Memphis against Michigan State today. All of their starters played at least 25 minutes.
See, the depth thing, I'm telling you, Auburn can go 10 deep tomorrow, and really cause a problem with the fact that second way, like you take out Dillon, and you take out somebody else, and then you put in Pettiford and Chaney.
Just a relentless force, man.
Yeah,
it's almost like
just,
they get better.
There's not a drop off.
Right.
That's the best way to describe it. When Auburn empties its bench, now sometimes from an offensive standpoint, when Chris Moore and JP Pegues come in, offensively there is a little bit of a challenge to get into your sets, and it seems like there's a little drop off offensively. And poor JP Pegues hits a big shot at the buzzer, a deep three, and of course it doesn't count.
Yeah,
it's just can't get any luck. He did play a little bit more aggressively tonight as far as distributing the basketball, but man,
did he though?
I felt like he did. I felt like he had a couple. Did he have 2 assists?
This has him with one assist, 1 rebound.
Okay. Man, I'd love to see him get going, because if he got going and scored double digits, you are just incredibly deep then at that point. And you really have no
it seems mental with JP right now. So, give him a few shots a game, let him figure it out. Because you're right. If he can get going, this offense is already fun, but it would just get better. Just get better for sure. Does Auburn win the Maui Invitational tomorrow? I say yes.
Oh, I said they would last night. I felt good about this game with North Carolina. I'm not saying overconfident, but I felt like Auburn's strengths was North Carolina's weakness. I felt like North Carolina was not going to guard and defend Auburn like Iowa State did. Mm-hmm. The concern I had was what do you do with North Carolina's guards, the 3-headed monster? But Auburn's so good defensively that I thought they would all you got to do is just keep them in check. They're going to get theirs. You just don't let them go off. Auburn did that. And then Broome, obviously, and Chaney. The depth and the balanced scoring was the key. And I feel like the depth tomorrow night will be a big difference in the Memphis game as well.
Yeah, I think so. Folks in the live chat are all saying yes, too. I don't think anybody said no. So it's kind of a bummer that, we all talked up, Auburn could play Iowa State, then North Carolina, then UConn. It's kind of a bummer that UConn didn't live up to their side of the bargain.
Yeah,
with this, because man, this would be I mean, obviously you can't overlook Memphis. I think Memphis is a pretty impressive basketball team. But just from a brand standpoint, you want to go up against the best. Like you want to play the 2-time defending national champs. But they're 0-2.
Memphis had the best.
So.
We felt like Memphis had the best win in the country after they beat UConn. Is it now? I don't know. I mean, and again, they got Michigan State, which is not as good as Iowa State or North Carolina. So that'll help, I think, Auburn. I'm not saying Memphis isn't good. They are. Yeah. They've had a little bit easier time. And then UConn falls again today. That UConn-Dayton game for a 7th, 8th place game or whatever it is.
I mean, that's Maui, right? That's the whole allure of this tournament. You know?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very intriguing for that game. And if Iowa State would have got upset by Dayton, you would have had number 2 versus number 5 in your 8th place game, which is just crazy.
That is crazy.
That
is crazy.
So,
all right, you ready to go to bed?
I am very thankful for everyone that jumped in here. And from now on, LOL does not mean laugh out loud. It means Locked On Lunatics, baby. Let's go. Yeah, that would look good on some shirts.
I'm fine with that. Yep. I'm fine with that. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much. Please like this live stream. If you're one of the 1,200 plus people in here right now, please like the live stream. Please subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 20,000. Really help us get there by the end of the year. That'd be super, super cool. Darrell, how can people check you out?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, and then the regular shows that we do during the week. You and I will have another live show tomorrow night, and then we'll have the reaction show after the Iron Bowl and a live show after the Iron Bowl. So
that's right. Yeah, the audio version of tomorrow's show comes up in like 2 hours. So stay up for that if you want. No, go to bed. We all need to go to bed. Thank you so much. Once again, please like the show, subscribe. We'll see you in a few hours. This has been Locked On Auburn.